I'm George Curtis. Welcome to It's Your Law. Each week it's my privilege to bring guests that teach all of us about the law. How it's designed to work, how it occasionally does work and occasionally doesn't work, what we can do to change it. And we have some interesting guests, and today's guest is somebody I've looked forward to getting on the show for a long time. She's a specialist and a very accomplished specialist in an area of law that continues to irritate me. But she's not going to irritate you. In fact, you are going to find her not only interesting and intelligent, but charming. Attorney Ashley Lehocky, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's quite the introduction. I appreciate it.
Well, tell the folks the name of your firm, and that gets us off to a fast start.
Sure. I am with Town Council Law and Litigation, and we're located in Kaukauna, and we exclusively represent municipalities. So we try and be somewhat of a one-stop shop, if you will, for villages, towns, cities, sometimes counties, sanitary districts, any of the governmental units that are providing services to residents here in Wisconsin.
And if people think about it, government continues to grow, which means owning more vehicles, more employees, more activities, more properties, and when things go wrong and citizens get hurt, they assume that, fine, I fell at the city hall and those people must have a lot of money, I'm going to collect. Or if they're hit by a squad car, a street car, they come to the same conclusion. But boy, are they in for a surprise, aren't they?
Well, that could be. And that's a small part of what we do, but obviously, yes, these municipalities are providing a great deal of public space where we interact, where we take our kids to play on the playground, or maybe we have intramural sports that are going on. And they require a lot of vehicles to provide emergency and other services as well. So accidents can happen, and when they do, if an individual thinks that they might have a claim against that municipality, oftentimes we would be called to defend the municipality in that case.
And the municipalities are typically insured, although in some cases they're self-insured.
Correct.
Now just take any kind of a hypothetical you'd like to use as an example, a common case, something that came to my mind this morning, or the bridges in Oshkosh. If somebody's coming to work in the morning and the bridge is supposed to open up to let the boats through and then close to let the car traffic, doesn't always work that way. It sometimes doesn't close entirely, and accidents happen and people get hurt. Otherwise, police officers make mistakes like everybody else does and injure somebody in the car. Mm-hmm. Those are two typical claims against municipalities. What are some of the others?
Well, actually, my first case that I handled as an attorney representing a city in this area was with your firm. And in that case, there was an individual who was attending a baseball game, and he tried to descend from a set of bleachers, and he tripped on those bleachers and he fell and he hurt himself. So that would be another example of something that might happen again while the public is out utilizing these spaces that could result in an injury.
Sure. Wherever there is a space being used, and that used to include our parks, of which we had many, mm-hmm. and bleachers and ball games and vehicles and employees operating trucks, plowing snow, operating police cars. This is all a part of growing, expanding government. Mm-hmm. And wherever there are people and equipment, there are going to be accidents and injuries. But take it from the victim standpoint, what are the steps that a victim faces in terms of getting compensation for the injury?
So I think probably what you're asking about is what are those first steps that they need to take to ensure that
exactly
they've they have notified the municipality of a potential claim against them. And those are different than might be the case. For example, if you and I were involved in a car accident, we would both know because
Sure.
we were both there. If somebody trips and hurts themselves in a park, the governing body doesn't necessarily know that that's occurred. And so by statute, if an individual feels that, again, they have been hurt or harmed as a result of some government activity, they have to provide notice, written notice of that injury to the municipality within 120 days of being hurt. And that notice has to provide the name of the person who has been injured, the circumstances surrounding that claim, how it occurred, and the information that would be necessary then for the municipality to investigate, to speak to the employees or the witnesses who may have been involved, and to see if there's a dangerous condition that needs to be remedied so other people don't get hurt.
And there's a deadline on that notice of injury.
Correct. That's within 120 days of
All
being
right.
hurt.
And that's not the last deadline, is it?
Well, after they've filed a notice of injury, they would also be expected to provide a claim for their damages that they have accrued as a result of being hurt. And so sometimes that comes, with the same paperwork. Sometimes it takes a little while for somebody to heal and to determine the extent or the nature of really what those injuries may have been. But at that point, they would submit an itemized claim for relief, and they would request that the municipality consider it and potentially reimburse them for those losses.
And who do they serve the claim on?
The claim is served on typically the clerk. It could be served on the officer who was in charge, depending on what sort of situation or circumstance that we're discussing. And if they don't serve those claims, there's the possibility that they would lose their ability or their right then to bring a lawsuit against that municipality, unless they can demonstrate that, I say city, for instance, the city had actual notice of what happened to them and was not prejudiced by that failure to provide written notice of the claim.
Well, most people aren't that sophisticated. Most people assume, because they watch too much Judge Judy, that if they're hurt, somebody owes them money, which isn't true anywhere that I know of, and it certainly isn't true in Wisconsin. So that is there a form provided by most municipalities for making up the claim, or do you better get professional help by that time?
I think most of the municipalities that we represent have a claim or a claim form that would be available to be filled out. So that could be requested, but it doesn't necessarily need to be on that form that the municipality has. And certainly if somebody thinks that they have been wronged, it would be important for them to consult with an attorney.
This is a good time for our first break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you, what are the required elements, ingredients in that form? What should people tell the municipality amounts to their claim and why they're entitled to money?
Okay.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Your Law. I'm George Curtis, and Ashley Lehocky, a specialist attorney in defending municipalities and their insurance companies, is my guest. And she has a firm of 3 people that do this kind of work with some real expertise. In fact, I might say they're very aggravating, because they're
I'll take that as a compliment, George.
It is a compliment.
We think you're aggravating sometimes too,
I try
to be honest with you.
But I think you're more aggravating. But at any rate, we're going through the process of how these claims are made, because it's a unique process, and we're at the point where the municipality has to have notice of the injury. Then within a time period that's very specific, they have to have a claim filed. And while many of the municipalities will provide a claim form, they vary and they don't all provide it. What are the elements that the courts have decided are required to be in that claim?
Well, in the notice of injury, we want the person's name. We want a description of it's also referred to as notice of circumstances of claim. So we want to have the circumstances of what has occurred so that we can investigate and again determine if potentially there is a safety concern that we need to protect other members of the public from. And then they'll need your address and contact information so they know exactly who it is that has been injured. And then with the claim itself, an itemized statement of relief sought. So if you have been physically injured and you've seen doctors or you've missed work, your amounts of those damages that you have incurred that you believe you're entitled to as a result of that incident.
Now, in theory, the purpose of that specific claim is to allow the municipality to A, investigate, and B, to settle the claim to avoid the expense of litigation. And typically, in my experience, the process is to submit it to the county board or the city council. And I've only been doing this 62 years. Every one of mine have been denied. Why me?
Well, there certainly are claims that are accepted and situations where, typically by the time it's been submitted to the city council, for example, if they've reviewed it and they think that there's potential for liability, it will go to their insurance company. And the insurance company, if it thinks that it's a valid claim, will try and resolve that short of litigation because they don't want to pay for someone like me to come in and drag the thing out. But, not every injury occurs because somebody has done something wrong. Sometimes we look at these and we say, well, people who are out playing sports or, driving their cars or biking along the road, whatever the case may be, perhaps they've done something to cause that accident, and that's why you and I both have the jobs that we have.
We're fully employed.
Correct.
And then there's the next step when the claim is not paid. Mm-hmm. It can be denied, mm-hmm. or it can be ignored. But each one, denied or ignored, triggers another deadline, doesn't it?
So once the governing body has received the claim and the demand that it be paid, it also has 120 days then to go back and to investigate and to determine, to take action, either to try and resolve it or to provide notice to that claimant that their claim has been denied or disallowed. And when they do that, they also need to provide written notice to that person specifying that they then have 6 months to file a lawsuit.
All right. And what happens if the injured person hasn't hired an attorney and doesn't file a lawsuit?
Well, if they have not hired an attorney and they have not filed a lawsuit after that 6 months expires, they would lose their ability to sue. They're
out of luck, aren't they?
Well, I guess that's one way to say it.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a whole lot of luck in the system, but they've missed their chance.
If you believe in Santa and the Easter Bunny and the goodness of government, mm-hmm. and the kindness of insurance companies, those are all quick trips to getting out of luck. At least that's my experience. At some point, I think earlier the better, mm-hmm. these folks have to get an attorney who has some experience and knowledge in dealing with municipal liability.
Sure. And might be able to take a look at their case and advise them one way or another. Either that, yes, something has happened here where we think there's potentially, money that may be owed to you or not.
And of course, cases are built to a degree, mm-hmm. Making sure that if it's a personal injury, the victim, and you don't like that word, so we'll say the plaintiff, is treated by somebody who's willing to go to court, because doctors don't have to back their patients in court under the alt case, and most of them don't. And so if your client has a very good liability case, has a major injury, that doesn't mean that you can win in court if you don't have a doctor ready, willing, and able to go and testify under the current law, where the doctors are told by their hospitals and their insurance companies that they don't have to, and are actually discouraged from doing it.
Sure. Well, maybe that's why people don't love us as attorneys, right? Because personal injury attorneys like yourself are pretty good at finding doctors who are willing and able to testify that someone has been hurt for a very particular reason.
Well, of course, nobody has more credibility than the treating doctor. This
Correct.
is the doctor you go to for your health. But under the alt case, we've had to rent doctors. The insurance companies have been doing it for a long time. The rental doctors don't really have any dog in the fight. They're not treaters, it's not their patients, and they don't have as much credibility, and I frankly think that that's hurt the integrity of the whole process, but that's another debate.
Well, and I think that you might agree with me that once a case is in litigation, that doesn't necessarily mean it goes to trial, right? The vast majority of these cases are settled before they reach that point. And I think that once attorneys are involved for both sides, there seems to be, or there should at least be, a very realistic conversation about if this person was hurt, what are actual damages that were sustained, and is it something that we can resolve without putting that person and their family and witnesses, whoever might participate in a trial through that.
Good point. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the other steps and options, and I want your comments about your experience as a lawyer for lots of reasons. We'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Your Law. I'm George Curtis, and attorney Ashley Lehocky is my guest. She specializes in the handling of cases for municipalities. In fact, municipalities are in the name of her firm. We're talking a little bit about what is done when somebody is injured involving a municipality property or a vehicle or something like that, and she has led us through this notice of injury and claim process and then filing the lawsuit. The next stages, which would be enough for a program all by themselves, as to what we can and can't claim in the lawsuit, because there are immunities passed by the legislature and there are caps. That means limitations on what you can recover. But Ashley's career is so fascinating to me, being on the other side, and she does so well at it. I don't want to limit her to just a simple claim. I want her to talk about all of the other things involved in the work that she does for municipalities. Go to it.
Okay. Well, I would say the personal injury is a very small piece of day-to-day what we're handling for municipalities. I think I mentioned before, we try and be a one-stop shop for a very niche client. About 50% of my practice is direct general counsel type work. So typically towns and villages who might not be large enough to have a full-time in-house city attorney would hire our firm to provide assistance as things come up. So I attend a lot of village and town board meetings. We handle ordinance drafting. We look at development agreements. Land use and development is a big part of what we do. Really anything that comes through their doors that they might need assistance with, we hope to be able to help them with.
So your clients are more the municipalities than the municipalities' insurance companies, or are they both?
They're both. I would say it's probably close to 50-50. insurance defense, municipal insurance defense, and direct representation of towns and villages in and around this area.
Now, I buy every newspaper I can reach. People in your generation don't buy any, but I'm a newspaper person, and I get the Berlin Journal, and I get the Amro paper and the
Wapaka County Post.
Yeah,
and
all of them, and I read their various town meeting minutes.
Okay.
Because that's interesting as to what people are thinking today. And almost always they have their counsel there to advise them as to what they can or can't, should or shouldn't do. You're one of those counsel.
Sure. Some of our clients will have us at every meeting. Others might call us if they foresee that there's a hot button topic coming up on an upcoming agenda. But I have 2 meetings this week, 2 night meetings, where I'll be one in a town and another in a village, and available if questions come up during that meeting.
So you can have a night shift as well as a day shift and go to court as well and write briefs.
Yeah.
And argue to judges. I think the last time your firm and I went to battle, it was in front of Judge Bissett, and he granted your motion for summary judgment, and I'm still mad.
Well, then that went to the Court of Appeals, and your firm won at that level, and now we're back in front of the judge here in Winnebago County.
Well, as you know, I'm even-tempered. I'm always fighting.
Yeah.
But you folks really do a great professional job for your clients.
Thank you.
And I'm glad. I want your comment on something else. I've been practicing law for 62 years, almost all of it in the courts. And I think I was practicing law at least 25 years before somebody on the other side pulled a horrible trick on me. They sent a woman lawyer. And truthfully, I was discombobulated. I didn't know, do I treat this person like a lawyer, which in my case is fairly aggressive,
Yeah.
or do I treat them like a lady, which is assuming a fact not in evidence, or what do you do? And right today, there are many, many successful, competent female lawyers. Tell me what it's been like. You're one of the pioneers.
Well, at the end of the day, we're all attorneys doing the best for our clients. I was really surprised. Our firm had oral arguments in front of the Wisconsin Supreme Court a few weeks ago. And of course, I know the makeup of the court, you know the makeup of the court, but I saw 6 women walk in, and I almost got a little bit misty-eyed because the power of that, the impact of that didn't really hit me until I was there in the courtroom. So maybe it's a little bit different than it was 25, 30 years ago, but you know, we're professionals doing the best for our clients and all arguing, I think, in different ways, but with the same goal.
Well, why not? Why not use all of that talent? We've come so far since 1900 when the Supreme Court said, of course, women can't be lawyers. They're too emotional.
And here I'm saying I cried in front of the Wisconsin Supreme Court, but it's okay to be emotional, though. It means that you care about your clients. And I think that's probably one of the most important lessons that I've learned is I feel very deeply and sometimes probably take things too personally, but that is because I really believe in what I'm doing and I really care about the people I'm doing it for.
Well, there's a difference between girls and boys.
At least one.
But at the same time, there is absolutely no evidence that females are less intelligent, less analytical, less able to pursue their dreams. Mm-hmm. And our society has wasted millions of opportunities and brains because we had these preconceptions that women couldn't be lawyers, women couldn't be judges, women couldn't be doctors. Hell, my last 3 doctors were women. I didn't pick them, but they were there. and they did the job, and I had no reason to fire them. They wanted to work, and I think that is so important that we don't waste anybody's gift, and you're certainly not wasting yours.
Thank you, George. I appreciate that.
And I thank you so much for being on the show. I would like to have you on another show for a couple of reasons, and one of them is your interest in participation in government itself, the duty of citizenship, the price we pay for the space we take. You've got some great ideas, so you put them together and give me a call when we can meet again.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You get the picture. Government is getting bigger. More employees, more property, more vehicles, more accidents, more injuries. The likelihood of government being involved in your next accident is increasing. Yet it's very complex. There are minefields, missing deadlines, need for experts who don't have to testify. There are also caps on your ability to recover, limitations, immunities. It's a very complex area. My advice is, if you are in any kind of an accident involving a municipality, you get to the doctor and call the lawyer on the same day. I'm George Curtis. That's my opinion.